Hi guys, and welcome back to the Coffee Enema series. Oh my goodness, the series you never thought you would watch on YouTube. Am I right? So in this video, we are going to discuss some of the bullshittier things that are out there on the internet regarding coffee enemas. Now, I'm going to preface this because I'm going to get a lot of backlash, and the coffee enema lovers are going to hate on me super big time. I'm not anti-coffee enemas. I swear to God. I have recommended them to patients. I have done them myself. It is not that I'm anti-coffee enemas. But I'm really big on, in the complementary and alternative medicine world, if we want normal people and if we want the medical profession to take us seriously and not think that we're full of bullshit and that we're endangering people, we really need to be careful with the information that we put out into the world, and we need to make sure that we are backing up our claims with some sort of science, or we are being clear that we are talking about a hypothesis and that it is not documented, indexed, literature-based science. That's the difference. I talk about hypotheses all the time. I talk about how we know a lot of stuff, but we don't know all the stuff, and science isn't done yet, and that's okay. And you can have that little bit of mental flexibility and that little bit of, like humility almost, to acknowledge that you don't want to be the person who only gets their information on PubMed and ignores everything else. But you also don't want to be the person who is perpetuating myths and untruths and things that do frankly sound like quackery, because then the normal people of the world and by normal I mean not crunchy people, like the normal people of the world and the conventional medicine doctors are A, going to think that we're full of crap, B, they're going to think that we're dangerous, and C, well, no, that's really it. They're mostly going to think we're dangerous. So I want to be really clear when I talk about a hypothesis versus actual science. And I find that a lot of the discussion around coffee enemas makes it sound much more heavily researched and much more rigorously researched and understood than it actually is. Doesn't mean coffee enemas are useless or bad. It just means that maybe we don't know as much about them as we think we know, and we're making really big claims that can't always be substantiated. So that being said, I'm going to share with you just a couple of things that really got my goat when I started doing coffee enemas and when I was learning about them for the sake of doing this YouTube series. And first, I'm going to take you on a journey through my one of my first loves, which was anatomy. So actually, I'm going to move my head over here so I'm not by the anus. That was just weird. So here is a picture that is uploaded into the Facebook support group. I think it's literally just called Coffee Enema Support Group. It's a big, big group. It's got like 14,000 people in it, and it actually was somewhat helpful for me when I was getting started. But they have this handout that they give folks. And to give you a perspective, this is a person who's laying on their side. So they'll tell you you're supposed to lay on your right side when you do the enemas, and this is part of the reason why. And then you see that they have this catheter inserted into the rectum, so the anus would be right here, the rectum would be right here, and then that curvy part where the tip of the red catheter is going, that's the beginning of the sigmoid colon, and then you see the rest of the colon pictured with a lot of the portal vein. So they give you this nice depiction of the portal vein and the liver. And the idea, supposedly, is that here, and I'm actually going to draw here. Hold on. So the idea with this is that A, you need to insert this red catheter and use the beloved red catheter and not the one that came with your coffee enema kit, heaven forbid. You need to use this red catheter because you need to get the tip of the catheter up in the territory where these veins are picking up blood and bringing it into the portal vein and then ultimately the liver. So A, they're saying that you want to get that tip in far enough to get to those particular veins. And then the idea is that you're laying on your right side per here, right down here. The reason why you're laying on the right side is to let gravity do its job and pull the blood downward like this. Now, the first thing that I will tell you as a big old anatomy nerd, and again, anatomy was my first love in this world. You don't need gravity to help you that much. Truly. Just laying down is going to be plenty enough. It doesn't matter. For this particular argument, I don't think it matters if you're on your right side, your left side, on your back, on your stomach. It doesn't matter. Because either way, you're still going to bring blood to the portal vein. It happens all day, every day anyway. And the thing about veins is that they have valves, and the valves only let blood go one direction. So as long as your veins have valves, which they do, you're not going to get like a pooling of the blood or a backup of the blood. Like, you really don't have to worry about that so much. I could see laying on your right side as being beneficial though, because usually the sigmoid colon is a lot curvier than this. And I think when you lay on your right side, you know, really the sigmoid colon would be more like this, and you could get the coffee kind of pooling in the sigmoid colon, as opposed to if you were on your left side. I don't think you would have as much room to physically get the coffee in your body. So I'm with them on the right hand side thing. I don't think it's because you need the gravity to help get the blood to the proper arteries. Like, I don't think you need gravity to help get the blood to the liver. I don't think that's a thing, anatomically speaking. So that sounds a little bit BS-y to me. Now, the red catheter, if you go on this Facebook group, I'm just going to forewarn you, like, there's a lot of posts about the red catheter, and I will be totally transparent. I never used the red catheter. I debated it, but I ended up using the stuff that came with my bucket that I bought, and it was totally fine. There are reasons for doing it, but one of the reasons to use the red catheter and inserting it 5 to 6 inches, or I think somebody even said 6 to 8 inches. 6 to 8 inches into your body is because you're trying to get all the way through the rectum into the sigmoid colon over what cracks me up. They call it the bump. It's just the curvature of the sigmoid colon. I don't know if I'd call it a bump, but you're trying to get over the curvature here so that you get the catheter into the sigmoid colon, which again is this section right here. And then that's where those veins are starting to pick up blood and bring it back to the portal vein system. Sounds good. Looks valid based on this picture, but I will share with you something else. So hold on one second. I took out a picture of my favorite anatomy textbook, and I scanned it specifically for this purpose. So bear with me here, but I'll use a different color. If you look here, so here's the portal vein, and they're showing that parts of the portal vein blood supply are coming from the small intestine. So you can see all down in here, this is coming from small bowel. And then another part of the portal vein is receiving blood from the stomach, the spleen, the pancreas, and yes, the latter parts of the colon. But if you look, here is part of the transverse colon. So that's the part that goes straight across your upper abdomen. This is the descending colon. So that's the part that's going down on your left side of your abdomen. This all in here is the sigmoid colon, and usually it's a little bit curvier than what's depicted, but it's like a big letter S. It's very curvy and swervy. And then all down in here is the rectum, and then finally the anus would be down here to the end. And you can actually see that these veins that go up to the portal vein actually reach past the hump and go all the way to the upper part of the rectum. So purely anatomically speaking, as long as you get the coffee in the rectum, it probably is going to reach the portal vein. I don't think it's entirely necessary to get the red catheter all the way in, past the bump, so they call it, and have it around the curvature into the sigmoid colon. I mean, maybe that would be just like an extra just in case measure, but I don't know if it's intrinsically necessary, because you should have those superior rectal veins here and here that are carrying blood back to the liver ultimately. And then the middle rectal veins and the inferior rectal veins are going to other venous pools. But it looks like if you get it into the rectum, that's great. If you get some of it into the sigmoid colon, that's even better. But that's why when I was doing the coffee enemas, and I'll talk about this in that video, when I was doing them, I would lay on my right side to insert the coffee, and then I would lay on my back and I would do some hip lifts, like glute bridges, to try to get the coffee to go down into the colon a little bit more, so it wasn't just sitting in the rectum the whole time. But yeah, anatomy-wise, you have veins that go to the rectum, and they do go and contribute to the portal venous supply. So I don't know if you really need to worry about that for the sake of, getting the blood to that area. So those are two of the things that I noticed those indiscrepancies, and I thought that was worth addressing. It's also worth mentioning here. Let's see which picture would be better. Actually, their picture is better. So another thing to know is when it comes to the vagus nerve stimulation, I'm trying to wrap my head around how that would work. I know I have had some SIBO patients who report benefit from using coffee enemas, so I think that it could have an effect on the vagus nerve in some people in some way, shape, or form, but I'm wrapping my head around why that is. Because the vagus nerve innervates or communicates with the intestines and the GI tract from the esophagus, the stomach, the upper part of the small intestine, all the way through. The small intestine should be all in here in the middle. And then the vagus nerve also covers the first 2/3 of the colon. So theoretically, if you wanted to get the coffee to a location in the colon specifically where it's going to be picked up by vagus nerve branches, theoretically, you've got to get the coffee here or higher. And that's going to be kind of tricky. So you're trying to get it up to the transverse colon, which I don't know if we can really do that. What I think might happen if we're going with the portal vein liver kind of theory of it, what might happen is that the portal venous system takes the palmitic acid and the antioxidants up to the liver, and then the liver is also innervated by the vagus nerve. And it's possible that by influencing the liver, you are influencing the vagus nerve via that mechanism, as opposed to vagal nerve fibers in the sigmoid colon or the rectum, because such fibers do not exist. So anatomically, again, I never super understood the vagus nerve stimulation piece of it. But I've heard some functional medicine doctors who I respect highly talk about this as a way to stimulate the vagus nerve. So I'm willing to go with it to a certain extent. But if I had to hypothesize, I think we are stimulating the vagus nerve via the liver as opposed to directly in the colon. Because the area where the colon is going to get the coffee administered to it isn't innervated by the vagus nerve anyway. So that may or may not matter to you. And then finally, this is the last piece. So this is glutathione and the coffee enema. This is from the Facebook support group again. So it's a useful group. There was another article in that group in the files section called I think it's the biological basis of coffee enemas, I want to say is what the title was. And you can see that in here, they talk about that this is for detoxification. Again, maybe debatable. I don't know. And bile through coffee enemas, and they talk about how scientists, and they name names, Wattenberg, Sprains, and Lahm from the Department of Pathology in the University of Minnesota, who showed that rectal coffee administration stimulates the enzyme glutathione S transferase in the liver, and it increases by 600 to 700%. I'm going crazy, you guys. Like, I'm going actually insane, because I cannot for the life of me find actual documentation of any of this. Anything. And I've tried. I have typed into Google University of Minnesota coffee enemas. I've typed into Google coffee enemas and glutathione S transferase, and every single person, every single source, every single blog is regurgitating this exact piece of information. Everyone, even Dr. Axe, like all of these websites are saying, yes, the people from the University of Minnesota showed that it increased by 600 to 700%. And I'm like, where are you getting this from? I don't understand how I'm the only person who's trying to verify this and check sources. But I kid you, if you guys can find the article, I would love to read it. I've looked on PubMed, I've looked on Google Scholar, I've done a regular old run-of-the-mill Google search. I cannot find this information, and I'm beginning to think that Wattenberg, Sprains, and Lamb are made-up people, or that I'm going certifiably insane. So I don't know. I think it's a lovely idea that coffee enemas increase glutathione, and it looks really scientific. And it looks really tempting, like, oh, 600 to 700%. That is a number. That is science. That is really like we know this. Clearly, we know this because we have data. But I cannot for the life of me find the source of the data, and it's driving me bonkers. So at this point, again, now coffee enema enthusiasts are going to go crazy in the comment section. I personally do not believe that coffee enemas increase glutathione. I said it. I said it. I'm done. I said it. I also am not convinced that coffee enemas do anything significant for the sake of detoxification. I know I'm going to get backlash. You're all going to hate me. There's going to be YouTube comments. I'm just saying, I have tried to look at the research. I have tried to Google things. I have tried to find the citations, and I cannot for the life of me find anything that proves this in any way, shape, or form. I think it is all internet hearsay, and it's turned into a great big game of telephone, and I don't know where people are getting this information. Again, if you're going to do coffee enemas, I think the best thing I could wrap my head around is that it might stimulate the vagus nerve or motility or both in some way, shape, or form, and therefore it could be useful for irritable bowel syndrome and bloating and constipation and SIBO. For anything else, I think it's kind of up for grabs, and quite frankly, not a lot of people are lining up excitedly to do coffee enemas for the sake of doing coffee enemas. So, you know, if you could take orally administered glutathione instead of doing an enema, I would say that's a win, and that's far more appealing. If you could take an herb, like if you could take cordyceps instead of doing coffee enemas, and you get more glutathione out of either one, I would take cordyceps personally all day, every day, or N-acetylcysteine, or something like something that could boost glutathione orally. I think that is so much easier and so much more obtainable and appealing to most people as opposed to doing coffee enemas. So really, I think that I would encourage you to try this if you have problems with motility, things like bloating, SIBO, IBS, constipation. I think that might be worth a shot. But as far as the detoxification, increasing glutathione production, vagus nerve stimulation, I think is kind of iffy as well, but I'm kind of going to go with it to some extent. Like, if you're going after it for the detoxification and the glutathione effect, I think there are probably much better ways to support your body through detoxification rather than doing coffee enemas. So that's my opinion as of now. If you have links to PDFs, like full text articles or references that actually tell me that these people from the University of Minnesota existed, and you could show me their research and it was published research, it wasn't just like the doctor did like a Facebook post 10 years ago. Like, if you could show me that they actually published this research and it's somewhere for me to read and I can see how they did it and what their findings were, I am all for it. But at this point, I'm going bonkers because I cannot find this research anywhere. And with that, feeling a little bit bonkers now, I'm going to let you guys go, and I will see you in the next video. Hey guys, if you like this video, be sure to subscribe, ring the bell, click the like button, and leave a comment down below with the videos that you would like to see me do next. Doing all of those really helps support the channel and support my efforts in making as many videos as possible for you guys. Thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next video.